I have only given one address in memory of a fallen soldier, and it will remain the most difficult task in my life. On a sunny Melbourne day in January 2009, my unit waited on parade as a giant Air Force plane slowly filled the cinema screen-sized entrance of a hangar in Tullamarine. We waited for a silver steel coffin draped with an Australian flag. We waited to start a process none of us wanted to happen. We waited for a Victorian, someone who went to Doncaster Secondary College, someone who lived off High Street in Templestowe, someone who loved Nando's, 80s action movies, our friend, Private Greg Sher. Only a few days earlier, the Sher family had heard the most terrible news. Their son and brother had been killed in action in Afghanistan. He was with his commando platoon when he was struck in a Taliban rocket attack. When the knock finally came in the middle of the night, his parents were away, so his brother had to hear the news, somehow process it, and somehow turn his mind to telling his mum and dad that they had to come home. Very few of Greg's friends had met his family before, yet here we were, side by side with them, in one of the most moving and solemn moments no family deserves. Trying to hold it together for them, it was impossible not to look at his parents and think, how can we ask so much of you? How can life go on? When you walk in and out of the shadows of our war memorials, it is easy to get drawn into all of the names, the battles, the numbers. 61,000 Australians killed in World War I, 39,600 in World War II. It's easy to look at the relative population of this young country and reflect on the sacrifice and tragedy of 103,000 Australians killed in all wars. This is only the number of Australians killed. Many more have been and continue to be wounded. And after the ceremonies are finished, the politicians have gone home and the bugle stops. All that is left is someone's mother holding a photo in her son's bedroom. The sad truth is that most families actually never got a knock on the door. Most instead received a telegram under the door. And for many, it listed cause of death as known unto God. Last Saturday, Australian scientists located the wreck of a ship that was sunk 80 years ago off the coast of the Philippines. Resting 4 kilometres under the sea, twice the depth of the Titanic, the SS Montevideo Maru was a Japanese merchant vessel used to transport prisoners. It was torpedoed in 1942 in the fog of war by a US submarine, USS Sturgeon. The crew were oblivious to its passengers. They didn't know who was on board. It sank in 11 minutes with the loss of 1,000 Australians. In 11 minutes, we lost twice the number killed in the entire Vietnam War. In 11 minutes, entire bloodlines were wiped out, with the Turner family from New South Wales losing 3 sons. In 11 minutes, young men were woken as the explosion roared and the water rushed in. They almost certainly tried their best to solve the problem, to find a way out, because that is what Australians do. But at some point, hope would have faded. We can only imagine what their final thoughts were. We can be sure that they were of their parents, their partners, and for some, their children. We can be sure they turned their last thoughts to home, to Australia. War memorials and cenotaphs like here are more than public architecture, and today is more than a holiday. As a young nation, we once saw the lonely aftermath of sacrifice everywhere. Very few families avoided the dark tide of World War. We knew that we had to reach into the living rooms of each family, put a hand on their shoulder, and say, if only just once a year, you are not alone. Like they do every day, we will remember this day. As songs, smells, and old toys take them back to better times, so too will our memory be triggered by a silence and a lone bugle as the sun comes up. On this day and in this place, we simply remember and say, lest we forget. But as the sun comes up, we owe them more than just reflection. As the sun comes up, we should turn our mind to their last memory of home. That we honour their sacrifice by never taking for granted what they left behind, by cherishing each day, by committing ourselves to serving others in so many different ways, by being kind and brave and forgiving, by making this a country worth fighting for.